Hello everyone, this is Untitled Chapter from Crescent Creation. Welcome to another video on Not Too Shabby Shop channel. In today's video, I'm creating 6 slimline cards using the August box of the month kit. If you haven't checked out this month's products, you should. They are just amazing and you will fall in love with them immediately you see them. And lucky for you, this kit is currently available in stock, so go check it out. The link is in the description box below. This kit comes with some really cute stamp sets and coordinating ephemeras. And of course, the pattern papers are just gorgeous. So for today's video, I decided to just use the slimline paper pad and the ephemera die cuts for my 6 slimline cards. I have already pre-prepared my card bases that all measures 8.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And I have also cut my pattern papers to size. They are either 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches in size, or they're a 1/4 inch smaller, so I can layer the pattern papers and get a beautiful border all around. So for my first card here, my pattern paper measures 3.25 by 8.25 inches, and here I'm just layering the ephemera die cuts onto the left side of the pattern paper. And once I'm happy with the placement, I'll go ahead and glue them all using some liquid glue. And now I'm trimming off the excess using my scissors. Once that's done, I'll go ahead and glue this card front to another pattern paper that measures 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches. And now for the sentiment, I'm using the sentiment Eat, Sleep, Create, Repeat from the Color My World stamp set, which is also included in the box of the month kit. I stamped the sentiment on white cardstock using some black ink, and now I'm fuzzy cutting it out using my scissors. Once I'm done with my fuzzy cutting, I'll glue the sentiment using some foam tape. This kit comes with a very beautiful Gina Marie design embellishment, but I was not able to find where I kept mine. So I'm using these heart enamel dots from my stash that matched perfectly with these products. After gluing few of the enamel dots all over the card front, I'm gluing the card front to a white card base, and that finishes my first card. I'm so happy with how this card turned out. It's so colorful and it came together so fast. Here is my second slimline card. For this one, I used all the floral and the leafy ephemera die cuts. To start, I have a white cardstock that measures 3.25 by 8.25 inches. And I'm using some pattern paper strips that were left from the last card. I'm adding some double-sided tape behind both these pattern papers, and I'm going to go ahead and glue this to the center of my card front. I'm taking my time here to make sure that I glue this strip straight, and then I'll go ahead and glue the second piece and then trim off the excess using my scissors. Next, to add some interest to the background, I'm adding these golden strips that I have in my stash. These are self-adhesive thin strips that look so beautiful and just gives a nice shine to your projects. Once I'm done with the background, now I'm going ahead and gluing all these leaves and flower ephemera die cuts using some liquid glue. I'm just layering them together, trying to create a beautiful bunch of flower and leaves. Once I'm done gluing all the leaves here, I'll go ahead and add some foam tape behind the flowers. And now I'm going to go ahead and add that. After adding the pink flower, I decided to add one more flower, so I went with the yellow one, added some foam tape behind it, and then glued it in place. I just loved how these all came together and looks so pretty. Now I'm using my scissors and trimming off the excess that's hanging off the card front. Next, I'm going to go ahead and glue this to a white card base. For the sentiment, I white heat embossed the sentiment on a black strip of cardstock that says it's a brand new day. It comes from the Brighten My Day stamp set from box of the month kit. And once I'm happy with the placement of the sentiment, I'm going ahead and trimming it out using my scissors and then gluing it using some foam tape and liquid glue. And lastly, to finish off this card, I'm adding some heart enamel dots. And my second card is ready. I just love all the colors against the white background, and that golden glittery strip is just icing on the cake. And as we talk about the cake, here is a cupcake card. How cute are these cupcakes with the paint brushes in them? For this card, I'm just figuring out how I want all my ephemera pieces to go together. But somehow the rest of the video where I put together this card was lost. But I created just a simple background using 2 pattern papers and then glued the ephemera die cuts using some liquid glue and foam tape. For the sentiment, I white heat embossed the sentiment, Live Life Colorfully. So now moving on to my fourth card here. Since the footage for my last card was lost, I created a similar background for this card to show you how I created the background. To start with, I have a pattern paper that measures 3¼ by 8¼ inches. And here I'm gluing another pattern paper that measures 3¼ by 3 inches to the bottom of the first one to create the floor. Gluing a white cardstock strip to create the baseboard and trimming off the excess using my scissors. For this card, I'm also using the thin golden strips that I used earlier to add some interest to my background. Sorry about my hair here coming in between. I was just making sure that these strips are glued straight. Once I'm done gluing the strips, I'll trim off the excess that's hanging off the card. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue these ephemera die cuts to the background using some liquid glue. For the girl here, I added some foam tape behind her and glued her in place. Next, I'm adding a paintbrush on the head of my painted cat here. I just thought it was looking so cute. Now I'm gluing the cat in place using some foam tape. To give these die cuts some ground, I'm adding shadows using a grey Copic marker. It just immediately adds a lot of depth to this whole scene. Now for the sentiment, I decided to directly stamp it towards the top part of the card. I'm using black ink to stamp the sentiment, "Life is colorful. It's a brand new day." And here I'm almost done with this card, just trimming off the excess ephemera die cut that's hanging off the card, adding some heart enamel dots here. And then I'll go ahead and glue this card front to a white card base. And my fourth card is ready. Now for the fifth one, I kind of did the same thing for the background. So I'm not sharing again how I created the same background. I just used different pattern papers for this background. I glued the girl using some liquid glue. I'm adding some foam tape behind the easel and the canvas die cut and gluing that in front of the girl, trimming off the excess that's hanging off the card. Next, for my sentiment, this time I decided to use the pattern papers itself to create the sentiment strips. I again stamped the same sentiments. It's a brand new day, live life colorfully, using some black ink, trimming off these strips using my scissors. Next, I added some foam tape behind these strips and now I'm gluing them to my card front. Lastly, I'm adding some heart enamel dots. Then I'll go ahead and layer this to a pattern paper to get a beautiful border all around. And then I'll go ahead and glue this to a white card base. And this finishes my fifth card for this video. Now for the last and the sixth card, I selected the smaller ephemera die cuts and arranged them randomly on my background. The background here measures 3¼ by 8¼ inches. Once I have all my pieces glued down, I'll go ahead and trim off the excess. Here I'm trimming off the sentiment strips that I white heat emboss on black cardstock. Next, using my scissors, I'm creating fishtails at the both ends of these strips. And once I'm done doing that, I'll go ahead and add some foam tape behind all these strips and glue them to the center of my card front. The sentiment here reads, "Life is colorful, it's a brand new day, color outside the box." Next, I'm adding some enamel dots in black, white and silver color to embellish this card front. And to finish off this card, I'm gluing a pattern paper strip to the left of the card base. Next, I'm going ahead and gluing the card front directly to the card base. For added interest, I'm gluing that golden strip just near the card front. Since my card front was a 1/4 inch smaller, I just trimmed the excess card base. And that finishes my sixth and the last card for today. So let me just share a quick recap and show you all the 6 slimline cards that I made. I'm just in love with these cards. They were so quick and easy to make and they look so beautiful and colorful. I'm sure these colorful cards would make anyone's day. So if you haven't checked out this kit, do check it out on the Not Too Shabby Shop website. Here are a few more videos that you might like to watch. Thank you for visiting. Have a nice day.